reading is making me thirsty. Oh no, not again. You mean to tell me? Oh, yep. Another apocalypse? You gotta be kidding me. What is it, every Wednesday now? Okay, Schmoogle, give me a list of natural water sources that haven't been affected by radioisotopes yet. Hey everybody, Syntax77 here. I was actually planning on having a nice video, doing something new, a little book club action, kind of like Oprah today. And, well, as you can see, we have a little issue here, and I'm thirsty.
There is one remaining non-radioactive water source nearby.
Ah, thank you. Anyway, like I was saying, plans just changed. I'm thirsty. We got to find some water. Now, just because it's not contaminated by radioactivity doesn't mean there aren't other things in that water. And luckily, though, I do have a new filter for backpacking and kind of survival situations that someone sent me. So, throat's starting to hurt here. I'm gonna get out of this air. We're gonna get on the road, find somewhere to test this filter out. Etekcity water filter. Safe to breathe here. A little windy. Probably find some cover. I think over here. We'll test this water filter out. Put the gas mask away. A little slippery. All right, what I have with me, because we still want to make sure that we don't get sick, nobody wants diarrhea during the apocalypse, we're going to filter it up. I've done a couple filter videos over the years. Somebody sent me this one. It's a company called Etekcity. That's Etekcity. It's a water filter, but it's 3-stage. So it's kind of like the Sawyer. Actually, it's closer to the Renovo Trio, which I've showed you before. This one here is actually a little less expensive, so we're going to try it out today. First things first there, let's look inside. Got the main filter body. We'll get to that in a second. Looks like that right there. Small filter bag. Looks like it's probably 16 ounces, and it is. It says 16 on it with a little carabiner. So there's your dirty water bag right there. Got a little filter back flushing kit. Similar to the Sawyer, but look how nice and small that is. So if that legitimately works, that's pretty cool right off the bat. I can see I like that because a lot of times I don't bring that big old back flushing syringe for the Sawyer system. Luckily, my trips usually aren't too long, but this is the apocalypse. So I'm going to want to carry something on me, and look how small that is. And also have some filter discs in there and a little end cap. The last item is some tubing. That looks like some 1/4-inch tubing, and that is so you can drink directly out of the stream. And then I have features and specs card. So let me read you that real quick, and then we'll get into taking a look at this thing in action. And actually, there's an illustration on the back here that will help my explanations as well, because what we need to go over first is the fact that this is a 3-stage filter. First stage, nothing too crazy. It's just a preliminary filtering of any sediment or junk that might be in the water. It's like almost like a little coffee filter disc like I showed you in that bag. Second stage, activated charcoal filter. After that is the hollow fiber membrane filter. That is like what the Sawyer Squeeze is made out of. So you got your Sawyer Squeeze, a charcoal, and then a pre-filter, which, you know, sometimes if you pour through a coffee filter of your own or a t-shirt, that sort of thing, it just gets that loose junk out of the way of the other filter stages so that you don't get gunked up. All right, according to the fact sheet here, prevents salmonella, giardia, cholera, and specifically it says diarrhea, which is nice. Like I said, you wouldn't want that during the apocalypse. Output 400 milliliters a minute. We'll check that out. I'll get a little stopwatch on that. Working temperature 32 to 115 degrees. So basically, don't freeze this is what they're saying there. Dimensions 31 by 160 millimeters. They have a list weight of 60 grams. Let's talk about weight. I weighed it myself. 60 grams is right around 2 ounces, depending on where in the world you do your measurements. I found it to actually be less than 2 ounces, a hair under, say 1.75 ounces. So that's awesome, and that's just for the filter. And you throw in all the other stuff that I just showed you, and that stuff is an ounce 0.75 as well. So everything in this box that I just showed you, filter and accoutrements, comes to less than 4 ounces. That's pretty cool to carry the entire system. All right, so let's talk about why you would want those different stages. We went over the first stage, that's simple. Second stage it hits is that carbon filter. Now the carbon filter is gonna help in our apocalypse kind of situation here because, well, you might not be out in the pristine woods. You might be climbing around some urban wasteland such as I, and there may be things in the water like industrial or agricultural contaminants. That would be stuff like pesticides, herbicides, solvents for industry. Now these are organic chemicals, or actually VOCs, that's volatile organic compounds. So keep that in mind, it's not going to get rid of any chemicals, okay? A lot of the really chemicals are going to require reverse osmosis and all kinds of other stuff that this thing's not going to do. But realistically, even for hiking, not in the apocalypse, just hiking or doing a backpacking trip like I often do, you might be in an area where there's agricultural stuff going on, and pesticides and herbicides might be a problem in that particular area. Maybe this is the filter for you. Also, if you are near some sort of industrial thing and you're a little wary, then hey, this will help. There's also a more practical aspect of the carbon filter, and that is aesthetics. Taste, smell, color. Carbon is great for getting rid of that. So if you're in an area with stagnant water, say you plan on getting it from a pond or something like that, this will probably taste, look, and smell a little better when it comes out the other end. Last but not least, let's get to that third stage, and that's your hollow fiber membrane filter. That's what's really going to get rid of those bad guys that might give you the old cramping, diarrhea, sickness, stuff like giardia or salmonella or stuff, you know, of that nature. Salmonella a little less common in the backcountry, but I suppose during the apocalypse, maybe chickens were part of the problem and they started spreading salmonella. I don't know. E. coli will get rid of that stuff too. Basically, most bacterias. I believe they say 99.9%. Now, the actual specs on that hollow membrane filter, 0.01. That's really, really tiny for this type of filter. The Renovo Trio was 0.05 and the Sawyer is 0.1. Now, all three of those will cover bacteria. This is actually going even further. I would say maybe some viruses, but they don't say that on the packaging, and there's a good reason for that, because most viruses like hepatitis and stuff are still going to pass by. They're even smaller than 0.01. But it is an added bonus that it could be filtering out some of that extra stuff, even though I don't see it on the literature as bragging about that. But that is good. It's going to get a lot of stuff out. The one downside to that, and I don't know yet, I'll have to use this filter for a while, but the smaller the pore size, the more likely it could get clogged up. So that remains to be seen. Is that really going to make a difference with how often I have to backflush this? But again, it's got that little syringe, so that's pretty cool. And let's look at it here. It pops off. Uh-oh. Hold on. Uh-oh. Okay. It's a little hard to pop off. And it's a little cold out here. Although it's only 40-something degrees right now. I think it was up to 50. I guess that's kind of brittle. That cap just broke off. But it was really hard to get. I'm making excuses, but it doesn't come off that easy. So I guess I got to make sure not to lose that now. All right, so the cap, you know, maybe that could use a little improvement in future models, but that's one element. And then there you can see inside there, and there's a tube on the other side. Now, that's where that tube comes into play. Check this out. I'm going to take the tube, pretty good length of tube here. Look at that. and click it or slide it onto the end. There we go. Now, this is the clean side, and this is where the dirty water comes in. So let's see how we do this. I'm just going to dunk it right into the water. It's coming through really easy, and I just had a nice drink. That is theoretically safe due to all the things we just talked about. So that's super easy. It would be up to you if you want to cut this tube down, but you can see I have a lot of reach here. It's not always going to be this convenient. So this way you can really get down in there, have a nice drink. Now, of course, this filter is brand new, so it's going to have probably the best flow rate it ever will, but it's going right through there. I drank out of there super easy, and that's an extra long straw, and that was an easy, nice drink. Tasted great. I would imagine around here the water isn't too terrible. You know, check back in a week when the apocalypse gets worse, but I don't know if the water would taste that bad here anyway, but that carbon certainly helps, and that was some good tasting water. So that's how the tube works. Now, one thing I'll point out, and I'll move away from the tube, on the other end, I do wish, and I always say that about filters, I do wish this end had the ability to hook a tube up to it as well, because then you could do a gravity filter setup. I don't see a way to do that with this system, other than, of course, letting it hang free. You can see it going right there, and you could just have a container of water right underneath. But to have it really sealed up in a closed circuit kind of gravity system, that would be nice, maybe in future versions, to have the ability to put a tube on there. Now, as I'm over here testing out that tube, I did realize that pre-filter I was talking about, it's right here. It's actually separate. So check it out, it goes over top of the bottom where I just had that tube. You put this one instead. Although now you don't have quite the reach, but that's supposed to use those little filter discs I showed you in the bag to get out any heavier sediment for really like turbid water. Now, this water right here is moving pretty good. I wouldn't need it for this, but this is how it would work. Works just the same. I just don't have quite the same reach. Pretty simple fix. If you always want to use the long tube here, just pull that off, put it on your longer tube, and you always have it on there instead. That's the pre-filter right there. All right, anyway, let's try out the bag. There's the bag. Etekcity. You got your carabiner there, and real simple. If you've never used a filter like this before, check this out. Now, I will admit this is a super ideal situation where I have this little water flow here, but if you find some running water, you just fill the bag up. That's it. If you have standing water, you just kind of switch it through and pick up water that way. Or I like to carry like a old water bottle with the bottom cut off, and you can use that as a scoop. So now I got my water in a bag. Screw it on the top there like so. Get yourself a vessel to put the water in, and then either rig it up in a way, and I just noticed something. If that carabiner, I would get a hole punch. See if you can sneak a hole up in the top corner, and you can let this thing hang for kind of like that gravity system I was talking about. But anyway, just squeeze, got a decent flow coming out there. Not bad. Now again, the more you use these things, the more they will slow down, and that's when you just backflush it. Let me show you how the backflush works. Got that little tiny syringe there. I filled it up with some clean water. I didn't have a cup or anything, so I just used the cap right here and sucked it up out of there. Again, clean water, because what we're going to do is that little nozzle there fits in to the beginning, and you're basically going to run the whole system in reverse. So if anything, sediment and stuff is in there, now when I press this, everything comes out the other side. Do that several times and you'll be good. Now, the one downside of this, remember I was saying I like how it's smaller. Of course, you're going to have to do a lot more back flushes to equal one of the giant ones, but at least this slips right in your pocket. Just make sure not to lose it. That is some good water. And of course, you can just leave the bag connected and drink right out of it, kind of like I did out of the stream over there. Next test, let's try this. It says on the package you can hook it up to any water bottle with standard threads. This is a smart water bottle. I don't think they have standard threads, but let's just see. I'm contaminating my clean water bottle right now, by the way. But for the sake of testing. All right, it just sealed on there pretty good. And let's see if this was my dirty water source, if it leaks up top. I'm squeezing, and I have no leaking going on at the seam there. So it looks like you could use a smart water bottle as a dirty water reservoir, and you'd be squeezing along in no time. That's good. Let's try a different brand that I brought. Arctic Soul, I don't know. This should be, just about all of them, I believe, are the same threads. Smart Water's the only one that gets a little weird sometimes. Again, I have to stress the importance of making sure, I was going to say to dedicate dirty and clean water bottles. This is not fitting on here. So this is just like a regular old from the grocery or gas station water bottle. That's not fitting. But the Smart Water you saw worked perfect. So I would suggest that. All right, glad I brought two different types. Now the nice thing about working with Smart Water is these are, as far as I know, the same threads as platypus bottles, so your platypus should work as well. I wish I brought one to check, but I didn't. Sorry, I'll put a note up to tell you if it works. So there you have it, the Etekcity water filter, under 20 bucks. Seems to be doing everything it says it should so far. I'm liking it. Again, I'm going to use it further. I'll kind of give you feedback as I use it on future trips, because I think I will take it. For under 2 ounces, and having the additional carbon filter, which for taste and everything is a nice little bonus. I don't see why I won't try this. I do like to use a gravity system, so then again, I don't know, maybe it won't come on every trip, but I'm definitely going to bring it on some trips to try it out, or maybe I can mod it into my gravity system. It's also nice when I go hiking with somebody else, I'll just throw them this. Here's your own water filter, dude. You can do that, and then when we're in a more laid-back situation, I can use my full-on gravity system. This one, as you saw, to get a drink really quick, pull it out of your hip pocket, dunk it in the water, that hose, and just have a drink. A couple final points that they do mention on the literature that came with this. They say to use it from first use, to replace it after either 1 year or 1,500 liters, whichever comes first. I know from my review of the Renovo that had a similar thing, that's because of the carbon filter, and I also know that means a lot of you are going to freak out. Look, this is also less expensive than the Renovo. 20 bucks a year if you're an avid backpacker is what that would be. If carbon filtering is important to you, that's not the end of the world. If you don't care about the carbon filter, hey, then, you know, maybe it's not going to work for you. I'm also going to point this out, and I'm sure they don't say this in their literature, but I'm fairly certain that that limit, the 1 year or 1,500 liters, is because of the carbon filter. It's going to stop being as effective after those thresholds. The hollow membrane filter, that thing's probably going to last God knows how long. I would say until the thing starts not backflushing, but that's just me. So I would probably be perfectly comfortable using this past a year, but again, the manufacturer does suggest replacing it. Just keep that in mind. So there you have it, the Etekcity water filtration system. I'm going to keep using it and see how the long-term usage goes, but if you're in the market for a relatively affordable filtration system, you may want to check this out, especially if carbon filtration is important to you. Till next time, I'm Syntax77, and you avoid the apocalypse and have fun out there. Dreams. I think I've been reading this book too much.